Shocking news out of Russia, where mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin and other top officers of his private Wagner Military Group are said to have been killed in a plane crash outside of Moscow. Now there's widespread speculation it was an assassination. CBN News national security correspondent Caitlin Burke is covering the story. Caitlin, what do we know about the crash?
Jenna, we know it was Prigozhin's private plane that went down, and eyewitnesses told Russian media they heard two loud explosions before it fell from the sky and burst into flames on impact. This video shows the plane suddenly plummeting from its cruising altitude of 28,000 feet. All 10 people on board are reported dead, and Russian authorities have confirmed Prigozhin was on the flight. An investigation is now underway, but so far no reason for the crash has been reported. Some images from the wreckage reportedly show puncture marks, which experts believe could suggest a missile strike rather than a bomb blast.
When we look at the wreckage, you don't see any of that outward expansion that you might see in a bomb. Also, you would think that the Wagner folks would be very protective of the airplane and not to allow a bomb onto that airplane.
President Joe Biden says he's not surprised and hinted that he believes Putin could be behind the crash.
There's not much that happens when Russia is Putin not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer.
Back in June, Prigozhin led a brief mutiny, pulling thousands of his Wagner Group fighters out of Ukraine and directing them instead to march on Moscow. Prior to the rebellion, the mercenary chief called out Russia's defense establishment for alleged mismanagement of the war in Ukraine and denying weapons to his soldiers. He called off the coup after allegedly cutting a deal with Putin.
Back in 2018, Putin did an interview where he said everything is forgivable except betrayal. Clearly, Prigozhin betrayed Putin, and every day that Prigozhin was walking around a free man in Russia was a symbol of humiliation and the weakness in Putin's regime.
During a press briefing this afternoon, Pentagon Press Secretary Brigadier General Pat Ryder confirmed initial U.S. assessments do suggest that Prigozhin was killed in the crash. They have no information about how the plane was taken down. However, they do not have reason to believe it was a surface-to-air missile. Jenna?
All right, national security correspondent Caitlin Burke, thank you. Peter Duran is an adjunct senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, specializing in Russia, Ukraine, and transatlantic relations. Peter, welcome. So we learned today Putin sent condolences to Prigozhin's family. Do you think this was a Putin-led assassination?
No, those were crocodile tears we saw from Vladimir Putin. The death of Prigozhin adds a major chapter break to Russia's long, hot summer of political and military instability, and his death proves Vladimir Putin's old saying, if you're going to shoot at the king, don't miss. If you're going to launch an insurrection, don't fail, because the price of failure is death, and Prigozhin has now paid that price. Putin is sending a message to everyone else who would try and challenge him. There is a line, you're not allowed to cross it, and that line is insurrection.
Peter, what happens to the notorious Wagner Group now with Prigozhin gone? Does it create somewhat of a power vacuum?
There is a power vacuum, but the Kremlin is moving very quickly to reassert its control over this mercenary group. Frankly, Wagner does a lot of things that the Kremlin likes and wants to continue. It continues to help seed instability in Africa. It continues to provide cannon fodder with soldiers for Russia's ongoing illegal invasion of Ukraine. And there's a lot of nefarious business transactions that go on around the world that Wagner can funnel money back into the pockets of Russia's elite. Putin needs Wagner to exist, although we might see a rebranding and a reemergence under a new leader. In one way or the other, Wagner will continue.
Yeah, Peter, did this attempted coup by Prigozhin, did it expose weakness of Vladimir Putin and Russia's strength and military?
That's correct. In fact, that's one of the major reasons why Putin had to act to eliminate Prigozhin. He had become this figurehead around whom others could rally. His soldiers remain very loyal to him, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more political violence as different factions within Russia fight it out. We could see some reprisal attacks by former Wagner soldiers in retaliation for the death of their boss. that's something to be aware of as we go forward in the next few months.
Final question for you, Peter. Does this have implications for the war in Ukraine?
Absolutely. Wagner played a critical role in fighting in that war. Its troops were some of the best equipped and most effective fighters in the battlefield. Now, it's important to remember the Ukrainians are making progress against Russia, and I think we can look at this instability inside Wagner, instability inside the Russian political elite, as an indicator that the Ukrainians have an opportunity here to push hard and push now while Russian elites are on their back heels after Prigozhin's death.
All right, Peter Duran with FDD, thank you so much for coming on this evening. We appreciate your expertise.
It's been a pleasure.